What's going on, beautiful people? My name is Chantal Riley, and you are watching Two Mics Up.
Look, we had so much fun in the first half. Just really getting to know Mayon and her work on Queen Sugar. She got hand and foot game, y'all. If y'all don't know, in the MMA game. But I want to switch real quick. We talked about sabotaging the squad, and
Right.
if you could, Mayon, just take a moment, give us some background about without you have to give too many spoilers because we want people to watch. About the movie and about your role as Missy, which was man. Yeah, man, I was there for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen. Okay, so I in sabotaging the squad, I am in the role of Missy. Without
Mhm.
giving away too much, so Missy uh, moves to a new town and she has a daughter who is a cheerleader. And as we all know, how sometimes the cheer mom circuit can be, it gets
Mhm.
really rough. And she has a bunch of trials and tribulations, and things get a little scary, a little touch and go there. But you got to tune in to see what happens, and you got to tune in to see what the issues are. But it's a really great film. I had an amazing time filming it. I met so many amazing people, cast and crew, and I just had a blast doing it. I had my first being hit over the head with something, and it was cool. It was
So speaking of that too, because you're I got you. We can say you're comfortable in the space of maybe some of the physical acting, right, and
right.
some of the physical part. Like, do you really dial in or engage in? You have the opportunity, or do you sometimes say, "Oh no, we need to double. We need to get somebody in here for that."
Yeah, I literally do as much as I possibly can. I'm the one that they're like, no, baby, we need the double for this. We can't do
They got to
that.
pull
But
you back.
yeah, we need the double, honey. But I try to do as much as responsibly as I can. I as much as they let me, I will do, and I hope
Right.
to one
I
day
see you
do
got your
all
you
of
got your
myself.
Warriors hat on.
Oh, you
You
know,
know. So, yeah, I
Warriors
see. I see. All right, from the Bay.
all
So,
day.
what
Yeah.
kind of noise? What kind of noise can we expect? From the Warriors in the second half of the season.
Oh man, we gonna always turn that championship mode on, so it's gonna be exciting second half, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
now
Splash
I
Brothers
got
gonna get busy.
okay. So two questions, real quick. With
Yeah.
that. So Draymond with the choke. Was that? I'm just look, bro. Was that enough of a suspension? Because I think he should have got more. And I'm not a Draymond hater. Look, I'm not a Warriors hater. I actually like
Yeah,
the Warriors, but
yeah. Nah, man. He didn't. He didn't throw no punches. He just
choke
kind of
choke the
grabbed him in
cat
the
out.
head. Yeah. Nah.
Choked him out, putting him
Hey
to
man, that's
sleep.
just Draymond. Draymond being Draymond, man. You
What
know what?
what does it mean to like Destiny and her interpretation on how important it is that our black and brown women really get fair pay, fair recognition for the work that they're doing, in the industry.
Yes, I mean, I feel like it's so important because you have to work twice as hard just to try and get
Yeah.
half as the amount of pay. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really sad because I think that there's this like kind of pipeline where you
Mm,
the only way that you're really able to truly start getting paid is when you start bringing a claim to a movie or something like that. But it's like, how
mhm.
do you start out? How do you um, know who to contact if you haven't
Yeah.
been given access to the industry, and if you don't have a father who's in the industry, or friends and things like that? It really feels like, okay, well, I'm just going to give up. I'm not going to
Mm,
try an audition,
mhm.
because you get discouraged because you feel like, oh well, they're talking this language that I have no clue about, and how do I
Yeah.
find a way? So that's why I feel like it's so important for there to be people that look like everyone behind the screen making the decisions, because that
Yeah.
then you wouldn't have those
It
issues.
was after Nashville.
Mhm.
And if you book a role and it requires any sort of nudity, you have to
Mhm.
sign a contract from the beginning saying that you
Wow.
agree to this, and here are the limitations here's what I'm willing to do or
Do
not.
what? Right.
That was not a requirement for this pilot, but the director changed his mind. And my manager called me and she was like, don't sign anything. Don't
Right.
say yes. This is not what we agreed to.
Right.
And this was before Me Too, and I think that it would have played out much differently. But my team at the time, I'm not with any of them anymore. And the studio, everyone let this man fire me
Oh my
and
God.
hire someone else who was willing to do nudity. And I
Oh,
look at that now and I'm like, man, no one had my back.
back. Yeah.
That was real messed up. Those moments really do change you. You get
Yeah.
to, you know, I try not to be jaded,
Mhm.
but I also some of the magic is gone. But the
Yeah.
magic is really in the work.
Yeah.
And the building of a character and the backstory. That's, if you can hold on to that, I think
Right.
you've got something, an anchor of
Wow.
sorts.
That that I thank you for answering that, because I mean these are the things, like I said, a lot of times we don't see.
Yeah.
As from what I've seen and been able to read and find about you, there you don't need validation. But I just think it's important that I want to be able to
But
give
we
you a platform.
do.
No,
But
you
we
do.
do. 'Cause,
You
you know,
do.
we're human, and
Yes, that's
it kind of sums up all that hard work that you've been doing. Because
yes.
when you're chasing anything, it doesn't have to apply to acting. Whatever you know,
Right.
you're trying to open a restaurant, or you're trying to, I don't know, learn how to jog, or run a marathon.
Right.
There's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of setbacks, and there's a lot of things. This has been years coming. There's so much work that you put into this. So when that validation finally comes that says, yeah, you did something, we saw you, we like it,
Love it.
that means everything,
Love it.
and it's recorded.
Yeah.
It's there, for
Yeah.
you've left a mark.
Yes.
So it does mean everything.
And that's really what I wanted to get to, because I think that is important. I think people need to hear that as well. Like you said so eloquently, no matter what level of life you're on or in, or what you're doing for a career, that validation does mean something. And I think that's
It's your
very
legacy. It's what you
yes.
leave behind.
Yes.
It's knowing that I will die and there will be something remembered of me that isn't just gossip or whatever. There will be
Yes.
something good also that was left of me.
I love it.
Regardless of all the, because we all have our drama in life, and we all have our setbacks, and we all grow, and we all have growing pains. And I'm sure we've all been in situations we don't want to be in, but there will be something nice left of
Yeah.
me. And that's important.
That is important. Irma, thank you for sharing that
Part of my
nugget.
acting journey I never really talk about is growing up in Texas. There's this thing called speech and debate, where you go
Okay.
across the state of Texas, and you perform as a middle schooler and high schooler in these competitions with pantomime, with improv, with prose and humorous and poetry, and
Right.
you win awards. And even though I was an athlete, if you go to my house in Texas, my mom's house in Texas, you see a bunch of trophies for acting. But it's winning those competitions, and most of the time it was about my improv, and so I really lean on that. So a lot of things you see me in, it's really improv, and that'll grant. Because I also do a lot of commercials.
Right.
Business is all improv. That's what they're seeking improvers. They want people that can take their idea and make it special, make it something different. With a little, if I give you a plant, a box, and a balloon,
The
what can
birthday
you make?
bash I shot, I think it was the end of 2020. And it was short. It's like 5.5 minute long film. So that was a nice thing. I have another project that I started working on. I didn't get to finish it, but so I'm just going to keep taking steps in that direction, because I also would like to see the landscape of TVs and movies change a bit. Put some more color in there.
Have a little more color in there.
A little more color, and get more voices out there than the ones that we've been hearing. So I have a lot of stories to tell, and that's my passion right now.
And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I mean it's very interesting. As a person, I will not sit here and call myself an entertainer at all, but the more I've been able to get into the entertainment industry and be able to talk with folks such as yourself, which seems like, and I don't know if you can speak to it or can share your opinion or input, how difficult, and when I say difficult, not in the fact of getting more Black or more colored voices out there, but keeping them consistent and keeping them in a place where they're at the forefront, because it seems like, we watch, like Issa Rae and a lot of these shows that they're hit shows and then they're gone the next day. And I'm interested to know, from you moving on to that side, like, in your opinion, is there a way to keep, the industry consistent and hold them to the fire to keep our shows, out there for us as people of color?
Actually, I think they're doing pretty well now.
Okay.
There's a lot more of us in TV and film. So I think they're doing well, and there's so many more avenues. All of the streaming services,
Mm.
Tubi, YouTube, you can put your stuff pretty much anywhere. And I do
Right.
see a lot more filmmakers of color being creative and putting their things out there. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. And for me, I just want to tell a little bit. Um, I want the stories to be a little bit different than what
Mhm.
I've been seeing a lot of, because
Mhm.
some things I just can't relate to. I'm not involved in different pockets of experiences, I will say. And so
Yeah.
I'd like to share my own experiences and get some more variety out there as far as stories.
And if you could just take a few moments to, like, talk about your character and maybe the message, without
Yeah.
giving too much to the audience for those who maybe
Right.
haven't seen it. But I'm also curious to know too. I want to ask too, like, did it leave an impact on you too? Like, was there an impact that you still carry with you today? Because the movie was very impactful, in my opinion.
So yeah, so colorblind. I played Magdalene, and it's a story about her and her son Monet, who moved back to her mother's hometown. You could probably say it's a predominantly white neighborhood, and her
Mm-hmm.
being a black woman coming to this neighborhood, she probably gonna get some looks and some stares,
Yeah.
but it's not something that she wasn't prepared for. She understands who she is as a black woman, but also as an artist. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's called colorblind for, I guess, two. It's like a double entendre, I guess you would call it, where she's a colorblind artist. So her and
Mm-hmm.
her son are actually colorblind. And so it just follows her journey as being an artist, kind of a struggling artist at that point of her life. She had just lost her husband, and navigating through this new transition of her life while raising this young, beautiful black boy and teaching him the importance of love and kindness and what
Mm-hmm.
it is to be a black child in this day
Right.
and age. And
Right.
so did it leave a lasting impression on me? I'm trying not to go too much into it, so just
Right.
in case people,
Right.
but yeah, of course. I mean, I personally had never played a role like that, of that intensity before, and so
Mm-hmm.
it gave me the opportunity to kind of, and I'm not gonna lie, at first I was a little like, I don't know if I'd want to do this because I try to be as picky as I possibly can with roles because
Mm-hmm.
don't
Right.
I want to make sure it's leaving an impression, a lasting impression of
Yeah.
not super negative, or when it comes to
Right.
black stories, I know sometimes it could get a little exhausting seeing the same
Mm-hmm.
story being told over again
Right.
when it comes to black trauma, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
also understand the importance of having these stories be told from
Yes.
different lenses and different perspectives in order
Yeah.
for people to fully understand what we go through as a community.
So in that experience, like, your character, you played Miss Wolf, right?
Yeah.
And your husband, very, very famous gentleman. But
Yeah.
what was it like, getting, portraying Mrs. Wolf and then having on scene interactions with, your husband Bad Bunny, and like what was that like? Because you two probably are a fan to a degree, like you're probably like a
Right.
kid, like, but then now to be able to act and be in a role with, someone that you're a fan of, what was that
Right.
experience like?
It was so much fun. Like you say, I was a big fan of him. Like I love his music. Like every Latina out there, like
Right,
I
right,
dance to his music, I sing to his music. So
right,
I love his art. You know.
right.
When I found out when I found
Mm-hmm.
out that I was gonna be with him, and I was very excited.
very nervous because I mean he has more experience in the field. I don't know,
Right.
like I mean he's a singer, but it's also a performing art. So
Mm-hmm.
he had more experience than me. And but whenever I got a set, he was one of the people that made me feel very that I belong there.
Wow. All right.
So
Awesome.
that was very nice of him. Like he was like always like actually in a way that making me feel like I think you know better than me than this. Like I'm a singer
Mm-hmm.
and you're an actress, and it seems like you've been doing
Right.
this for a long time. So that I really appreciate that because he definitely gave me the confidence to think like, okay, maybe I'm doing something right because if he feels that this is like if I'm like a fish in the water, then
Mm-hmm.
I might be a good actress.
Well, I believe, you really shined, in the movie. You really shined in the role. You really stood out, especially to us, and like I said, it was a pleasure for us to be able to have you come on and just talk about it. And really, what inspired you to direct this project, and what message do you want to send, to our community at large, with the filming project?
Yeah, so I really appreciate that. So Triggered was a one act play that I did here in New York City. Amy Schumer's theater company put it on. And so that was my first introduction to Triggered. Thomas C. Dunn had written this wonderful one act, and then the theater company asked me to be a part of it. And I was just as an actor, and I was so grateful for that. Long story short, I reached out to Thomas afterwards and I asked him if he would consider making it a screenplay. And he already had, and someone had gotten the rights for it. And then they were supposed to film during COVID, and because of COVID, they didn't. So the rights lapsed, and I got the rights. And I knew that I wanted to produce it because I wanted to cast myself. That's normally why I produce things, so that I can make sure I can work as an actor. And I went for lunch with a dear friend of mine, Marie Therese Gerges, and I said, "This is who I want in the cast," which was different than the play. I was bringing in, friends that I knew. "This is who I want in the cast. The amazing Newton brothers have agreed to be a part of it. I know Ed Lucas is going to be my cinematographer. I've got the editor. I've got I was so excited about this, everything I had set up." And she said, who's directing it?" And I said, "Oh, well, John Leguizamo's a friend of mine, and I think I'm going to ask John because
Wow.
I know that gun
Wow.
violence, which is what the film is about, is something
Mm-hmm.
that John cares about. And because people love him, he could get the funding, and he's a really good director,
Yeah.
but he doesn't direct a lot. So it would be, if I asked an actor that doesn't direct that much, then maybe they'll say yes." And she
Wow.
said, "You need to listen to me. You have your cast, your crew, your location, your editor. You have everything. That's called directing." She was
Huh.
like, "You need to direct this." And asked
Wow.
John to come on as EP. And it literally had never occurred to me that what I was doing is I was trying to just make things easy to
Easy.
propose this to
Yeah.
John, because I just thought I'll just do everything. And she was like, "You can't,
Right.
like a director's going to want their own cinematographer. They're going to want their own cast." Like, she's like, "That's literally directing." So I directed it, and it's a film about, I mean, I'll say gun violence, but we're actually making it into a feature, and I would no longer say that the feature is about gun violence. It's kind of a
Right.
dramatic thriller that has the same threads of it.
Switch of it. Yeah.
But to focus on the short right now, my history is that I grew up in a farm in Canada, and we had guns, and everyone there
Right.
had guns. We
Right.
had guns, and if I'm going to be honest, and some people don't like it when I say this because they think since I made a short film about gun violence that I am anti-Second Amendment, and I'm not. I support the Second Amendment. I'm actually a really good shot. And I think that this country needs to, at the same time, change some laws to save
Mm.
lives, because
Mm-hmm.
it is an epidemic, the gun violence in this country. And I think that we are so divided
It
as a
is.
country here and here. And if we don't start coming
Yeah.
together and everyone talking on so many levels, we're going to be in
Right.
trouble. So, I don't want to take away all guns, but there are small change. 90% of Americans, including NRA members, believe in a better background check. So that's a
Right.
simple thing that could
Yep.
happen, that could save some lives. And I'll, get into a conversation with someone and they're like, "Yeah, but how many lives? I mean, how many lives is that going to change?" And I'm like, if you had lost a child to gun violence, would you had wished that that was the one life that got
That's right.
saved?
That one. We're back. We back with JT. Young up and coming rising star. Make sure you look out for him and definitely go out and check him out, man. He's gonna be hitting this film festival circuit, which I think is actually already started, or it's begun. Correct, JT? Yeah. So
Yes, that
he's
is
hitting the
correct.
circuit. He is hitting the circuit hard. he's got his new short film, Poppy, is out, and it, I'm inspired, I guess, just what I've read about it, JT. But give us and our audience, what was your inspiration like behind the project, and what can we experience, of you bringing this story to life, and
Yeah.
and add on to that, what was it like for you,
Sure.
developing this whole process?
Sure. So I guess let's start there, right?
Okay.
Developing the project. Um, because I had so many favors, producers,
Mm,
donors, angel investors wanting to help me out because of them following my career and just, trusting me.
mm-hmm.
I don't have like time to waste, so to
Right.
speak. I don't want to waste any of their favors. I don't want to waste
Correct.
anyone's money involved.
Mm,
So having said that, I'm strategically using things because I have two projects coming out we're working on now as well on top of this. But
okay.
I'm using specifically projects that have been tested, projects
Mm,
that work. And so now that I've said that, Poppy specifically, Poppy was written by this wonderful woman. Her name is Ashley L. Canfield. And she's actually my partner, co-producing partner. She is the co-founder of this company called Blended City, which is a
okay.
nonprofit company. She's
Mm,
also the founder of Wild Child Film. Both production companies are attached to Poppy. So she
okay.
is also a screenwriter and director. She sent out an anonymous survey to a bunch of people and she collected everyone's stories, right?
Mm, mm-hmm.
So 3 years ago, in I believe 2020, she wrote Poppy, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
collective joint effort of everyone's stories, right? So it's super
Wow.
universal, even,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels very personal. It feels like one person's story. However, that was many people's stories, and
Wow.
every person's story, every person who filled out her anonymous survey, gave their truth, and she said
Wow.
that a lot of them were very similar, and all of them heartbreaking.
Mm,
And Poppy is a dramatic narrative, so trigger
mm-hmm.
warning. You might
Okay.
cry, but
Okay.
I realized that there were a lot of hurts within me that I needed to break through.
Wow.
And one of those things was being a people pleaser. See, I wanted to please people to feel appreciated.
Yeah. I see. I see.
And I had to realize that I am worthy, that I don't have to look for
Cool.
appreciation from
Yo,
other
bro. Yeah,
people.
I know that's right.
That God loves me just the way that I am. And so I had to work through that. I had to work through things from being in toxic relationships, growing
Mm,
up not knowing my father, thinking that
mm.
I had to be that independent Black woman,
Yeah.
did not need help from anybody else, which is not
With
right.
PayPal Capital, it's a mission of mine to see how much money, I suppose, we can get to really effective charities that are doing wonderful
Mm-hmm.
work and are underfunded. So I am ambitious and I want to go big and see what we can do about getting millions of dollars to really effective charities over the next couple of years, and then over the long term. I want to hold these businesses so then it's not necessarily going to be kind of some big sale event with hundreds of millions flowing like that, but I want to be generating cash flow out of all these businesses and channeling it to, like I said, effective causes. It's
That's awesome.
the staff I'm hiring are really aligned to this goal. I think it's I think it's nice to have it not be about yourself and to be
Yeah.
living a bigger
It's a
purpose.
hard story to hear,
It's a hard story
but
to tell.
and I could tell, just in your body language, your face, just the things, having to relive these experiences. But I think it's important. That's why, I'm really excited and I'm glad to have you come on, because I think this, like I said, we overlook this, because some people are not affected by it, but this is real life things happening to real life people like yourself, and really need an outlet. And that's why I thought this was a great conversation and story to share. And more importantly, though, now that you've gone through and started, JB Solutions for Education, what would you say is the overall mission and vision then, of your work when you're working to help others and help educate others?
Okay, mainly to help parents avoid falling in the pitfalls that I fell into.
Mm,
Because a lot of times I just didn't have information,
right.
and the big thing in the speller's world is presuming competence.
Mm,
I didn't know that. I had no idea that people would automatically assume that a person who didn't speak or a person who had a disability was dumb. But
Okay.
that's where it is, and that's what they say. You assume, you take the child wherever they are. If they're 10 years old, then you teach them like they're a 10-year-old and work from
Right.
there.
Right.
You don't just say, okay, well, here's your third grade stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to know, like, we talked about, the education system, and you being an educator now on that side, have you been able to have, real dialogue and conversation with educators who are in the system to maybe work to bring a program or bring about change, for others, like your son, so that other parents, coming behind you are not stuck in the same or similar situations?
Well, yes, and there are some that understand where I'm coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some that do not.
Mm.
And also it's also a matter of pocketbook.
I hear you on that.